On blue-skied mornings, hundreds set out from packed trailheads beneath Mount Rainier, America's training mountain, promising adventure without elite skill. Yet this peak hides 25 glaciers, sudden whiteouts, and a fatal record unmatched in the lower 48 states. How did the gateway to alpine climbing become its most underestimated killer? The answer begins where myth and danger first took root. 500,000 years ago, a series of volcanic eruptions began to shape a mountain that would tower above the forests and rivers of the Pacific Northwest. Mount Rainier rose from the collision of fire and ice, a true stratovolcano still classified as active by the U.S. Geological Survey. Its flanks are draped in a vast armor of ice, holding more glacial volume than any other peak in the lower 48 states. 25 named glaciers, covering nearly 90 square kilometers, spill from its summit and carve deep canyons, feeding rivers that stretch for miles. Long before synthetic jackets or satellite forecasts, two men, Hazard Stevens and P.B. Van Trump, stood on Rainier's summit in 1870. Their climb, accomplished with wool and leather, opened a new chapter in American mountaineering. In the decades that followed, the mountain's reputation shifted. It was no longer just a remote geological wonder. By the middle of the 20th century, guided ascents had become routine. Permits multiplied as word spread that Rainier was the place to learn glacier travel, to practice before bigger expeditions in Alaska or the Himalaya. The numbers tell their own story. More than 400,000 summit attempts over the past 65 years. The mountain's easy access and the promise of guidance drew crowds from across the country. A myth took hold that Rainier was a proving ground, a challenge for the ambitious but not a threat for the careful. But beneath the snowfields and the steady lines of climbers, the mountain's true nature remained unchanged. Its glaciers shifted, its weather turned without warning, and its risks multiplied with every new footstep. Climbers begin their journey at Paradise, a visitor hub perched at 1,646 meters on Mount Rainier's southern slope. The paved parking lot and familiar trail signs create a sense of ease. For the first few hours, the route winds upward through meadows and lingering snowfields, the summit hidden behind ridgelines and shifting clouds. The terrain feels manageable, boots crunching on packed snow, the air growing colder but still gentle. But the mountain changes quickly. Above 2,400 meters, the last traces of trail vanish beneath a permanent white sheet. The Muir snowfield stretches ahead, a tilted expanse of snow that climbs toward the sky. Here the air thins, the wind sharpens, and the landscape loses its softness. Hikers who started in shorts and sneakers are replaced by climbers roped together, axes in hand, eyes searching for the safest line. At 3,150 meters, Camp Muir clings to a rocky saddle. This outpost, little more than stone shelters and tent platforms, marks the dividing line between the familiar and the unknown. Beyond Muir, the route veers onto glaciers where crevasses, some plunging 30 to 40 meters, lie hidden beneath fragile snow bridges. The next push leads toward Disappointment Cleaver, a steep ridge of rock and ice that slices upward toward the summit. From here, every step is a commitment. The mountain's true scale and its risks become impossible to ignore. Every year, search and rescue teams on Mount Rainier respond to between 5 and 15 major incidents above the high camps. For rangers and guides, the pattern is familiar. Most emergencies begin with a simple decision. A group ignores a forecast, pushes through fatigue, or chooses to keep climbing as clouds roll in. The mountain's reputation as a training ground fuels this mindset. The summit is so close, the route so well trodden, that risk feels manageable until it is not. Veteran guides warn that Rainier is deceptively technical. It may not require advanced ice climbing, but it demands constant attention. Rope spacing, route selection, and timing are critical. One guy puts it bluntly: Mount Rainier is doable, but it is not for the weekend warrior. Weather often forces poor decisions for the uninitiated. Summit fever, the drive to reach the top at any cost, can override caution. The statistics are sobering. More than 100 climbers have died on Rainier since the late 19th century. Most accidents are not the result of dramatic falls, but of small errors that compound in the thin air above Camp Muir. A misjudged snow bridge, a delayed turnaround, or a missed warning sign can turn a manageable climb into a rescue operation. The burden falls on rangers and guides, who must respond in conditions that can shift from calm to deadly in minutes. The sheer number of climbers, over 10,000 attempts each season, means that even rare mistakes add up. For every successful summit, there are stories of teams who pushed too far, and of rescuers called to bring them back. Rainier's danger is not just in its glaciers or storms, but in the choices made on its slopes. Dawn broke over Ingraham Flats on June 21, 1981, with the usual hush that settles on high glaciers. A guided party of 23, 6 professionals, and 17 clients rested at 11,000 feet, their tents clustered beneath the looming seracs of the Ingraham Glacier. The morning was warmer than expected. Guides noted the slushy snow, but this was the standard route, the same one used by thousands before. Minutes before 6, a thunderous crack split the air. Without warning, a wall of ice the size of a city block sheared away from the serac above. In seconds, nearly 1 million cubic feet of snow and ice roared down, swallowing tents, climbers, and ropes. Survivors described chaos, shouts cut short, the world reduced to blinding white and crushing weight. 11 people never emerged. Among them were guide Tom O'Brien and 10 clients. The avalanche swept them into a crevasse so deep that not even the search teams arriving within hours could reach them. National Park Service rangers, including Jerry Olson, probed the debris field as snow fell and winds rose, but found only fragments, a pack, an ice axe, a headlamp. By late morning, visibility vanished. The search was called off for safety. For days, rescue teams returned, risking their own lives on unstable ice, but the mountain kept its dead. The official inquiry ruled it a random act of glacial movement. No error, no warning, no chance. Yet the aftermath changed everything. Camping was banned beneath the Ingraham Seracs. Guides rewrote their protocols, and the myth of Rainier as a safe, easy climb shattered in the cold logic of ice and loss. On the upper slopes of Mount Rainier, glaciologists track the mountain's changes with methodical precision. Over the past century, Rainier's glaciers have lost about 40% of their area, a decline that is not always visible to the naked eye. Surface thinning, especially on debris-covered ice, lowers the glacier without obvious retreat, masking the true extent of melt. Instruments measure not just shrinking boundaries, but the height of the ice itself, revealing that even stable-looking fields are hollowing from within. Earlier in the season, snow bridges that once held until midday now collapse hours sooner. Mass balance. Surveys show meltwater running off weeks ahead of historical averages, leaving crevasses wider and more unpredictable. The data points to a mountain in flux, where the timing of a single crossing can mean the difference between safe passage and a sudden drop into blue ice. Crowds on Mount Rainier have never been larger. Each season, thousands of climbers and hikers set out across its glaciers, drawn by the promise of challenge and accessibility. The surge in recreation has put mounting pressure on the park's resources. Search and rescue teams now respond to dozens of incidents every year. These include slips, crevasse falls, and weather emergencies. That activity stretches the limits of staffing and equipment. Debates over funding have grown sharper as rescue costs rise, with some arguing that permit fees and federal budgets cannot keep pace with demand. Rangers face hard choices about how to allocate limited personnel, when to risk dangerous recoveries, and how to balance visitor access with safety. The sheer number of people on the mountain means that even rare mistakes become frequent, and every call for help tests a system already pushed to its edge. Mount Rainier's summit remains an open invitation, but each year, shifting glaciers and unpredictable weather raise the stakes. As climbing crowds grow and ice recedes, risk follows every step. Nature doesn't negotiate. Every decision on this mountain